let's open up the August 22nd, 2016 meeting of the Law Committee. The first order of business, can I get a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
If it's okay with the other members, I was going to take number 11 and 12 from current business out of order. That's okay with everybody?
So
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, 11, authorizing the submission of a grant application and agreement with the New York State Coalition Against Sexual Assault regarding a sexual assault service program. Hi.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about what this is all about?
Absolutely. NSCASA has granted us a sexual assault service providers grant.
Can you just speak up a little?
Yeah.
Yes. A sexual assault service providers grant in the amount of $6,444. This is the third year that we have been awarded this grant. It is 100% federally funded. We use the funds to provide part of clinical and caseworker salaries, as well as translation and interpretation services for refugee and immigrant crime victims and victims who have limited English proficiency.
Okay. Any questions from the committee?
So moved.
You're back. Patty?
It's okay.
Okay.
I don't know if you have the figures or data, but do you know the interpretation part of it? Has that increased over the last couple of years, the use of that?
In our office specifically, or?
Under this grant, for this?
I know we serve about 50 clients per year using this grant specifically.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 12, which is authorizing an agreement regarding local government records management improvement funds for the Hall of Records. Is anybody here from the county clerk?
I happen to know what this is.
All right,
This
go
is a
ahead.
grant that will allow the Hall of Records to digitalize records from the city of Albany, birth, marriage, and records, and other towns within the county of Albany. It's a big grant, and they hope to do a lot of it.
And it's 100% state.
100% state money, yes. No
So-
match required.
So moved.
Motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Go back to previous business. Number 1, preventing the hiring of former county legislators and the family members of current and former county legislators by the county of Albany. Mr. Mayo?
Table, maybe next month we'll have something.
Okay. Number 2, amending the Albany County Legislative Rules of Order.
It's going to be tabled. We're working with majority office and scheduling a meeting, but we're working on it.
Okay, so that's tabled. Number 3, authorizing 50% of the real property taxes collected by the county of Albany on real property conveyed by the Albany County Land Bank Corporation be remitted to said entity. Mr. Higgins,
I have no news on this.
still waiting here from the school district?
Yeah, unfortunately. But I'm going to an event there, so I'm gonna pin down the acting superintendent. so-
Okay, so I'll table that your request. All right, number 4, requiring all boards and commissions that are appointed by the legislature distribute meeting notices and agendas to the legislature. It's, I think, Mr. Drake's.
Brian. Brian's number 4 is
Tabling it
tabled.
pending a meeting with the county exec, which has been.
Okay, table. Number 5, local law I for 2016, local law of the County of Albany, New York, authorizing the county executive to negotiate a lease agreement of property owned by the Albany County at the former Ann Lee Nursing Home with Soldier On Inc., subject to the approval of the Albany County Legislature.
Table pending public
We
hearing.
have tabled that pending public hearing. All right, moving on.
Is that public hearing tomorrow night?
I think that is one of the public hearings
Yes.
tomorrow, yes. Local law J for 2016, local law of the County of Albany, amending local law number 1 for 2001, entitled Local Law of the County of Albany, New York, adopting countywide notification requirements for the commercial and residential lawn pesticide applications to provide that the signs giving notice of pesticide applications required by Environmental Conservation Law, Section 33-1005, parentheses 1, made available at the point of sale. And that is tabled pending public hearing too?
Yes,
Correct.
and you need a motion to amend the date. Last month, this was passed out of committee. However, the other committee did not pass it out. So now the date for the public hearing has to be amended to read September 27th when it's brought to the full body.
Okay. Can we get that motion? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Can you add me to this too, please?
Okay.
You got it?
I got it.
All right. Number 7, local law K for 2016, local law of the County of Albany, New York, amending section 206 of the Albany County Charter, and local law number 8 for 1993, as subsequently amended for the purpose of restructuring the legislature by reducing the number of legislators.
So we're gonna have a public hearing on this tomorrow. So I
Yes.
think it's prudent to table it now in committee, and I would request that we have a law committee meeting prior to the full meeting like we did last month, to hear the proposal, if that's possible.
Take
It's
it
up to the chair.
Yeah, I'll take it up, it's up to Chairman Mackey, but,
Or Mr.
oh, no, Chairman
The
Ward.
chair.
The chair.
The chair.
It's up to Chairman Ward.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess I'll give him a call or send him an email.
Make a request. Okay. All right, thanks. Moving on, current business. Resolution number 348, public hearing on proposed local law number N for 2016.
Mr. Fine is here.
Mr. Fine?
Yeah, if anyone has any questions on this, feel free to ask me.
Do
Can
we
you give
need,
us an explanation?
Sure. Yeah, so this local law would prohibit Albany County government from inquiring about criminal history on the job applications. So on the, basically this, there would still be background checks. Background checks could still be performed, although they would be delayed until after a conditional offer of employment is made to the applicant. Then after that conditional offer of employment is made, if the background check reveals a criminal history, then the county could withdraw that offer of employment if it were something that, basically there's New York state law prescribes factors that can be considered based on criminal history, so there would have to be a direct relationship between one or more of the previous criminal offenses and the specific license or employment sought or held by the individual, or the issuance or continuation of the license or the granting of continuation of the employment would involve an unreasonable risk to property or to the safety or welfare of specific individuals or the general public. So basically then the county could withdraw that offer of employment if it met this criteria.
There are
Then the
certain-
applicant,
There are certain jobs by definition that would be excluded
yes.
based on criminal history,
I believe
correct?
law enforcement, jobs dealing with children, physically, or mentally disabled, elderly, certain jobs like that are prescribed in state law that they would be exempt from the law. And the applicant would also then have, if the offer of employment was withdrawn, the applicant would have the opportunity to appeal, and that process for appeal is laid out in the law.
Can I just follow that? Do we have to do this via local law? Why can't we just do this as a resolution since it's only affecting Albany County employees and not countywide private sector jobs?
It has more effect as a local law, as you know, than it would as a resolution. And the intent of Mr. Fine and the other sponsors is to make this binding on the county and not just be a resolution of the county legislature, which is why it's a local law.
makes it more of a requirement.
Yes.
Brian?
Oh, I
Yeah.
just have one. Have we heard from the Human Resources Department? Have they opined on this yet? Do they take a position one way or another on whether they think this is a good idea, bad idea, whether they can enforce this, how it's going to affect their office? Have you spoken to the commissioner?
I have not heard from them. They have actually, since this law was proposed, they have removed the questions about criminal history from their job application. So I think that kind of sends a message that they are in support of the idea, but I haven't spoken to them.
Just another follow-up question to that, Sam. Seeing as Albany County has numerous separately elected officials, I know that they may have hiring practices or some with the jail or other entities, the DA, are they on board with this as well? Is this going to hamper any of their hiring, or they have any sort of caveats that they want to make sure that get vetted out, or is their employment background check something where they would catch all of those little caveats or those little?
Probably, in a lot, that wouldn't apply necessarily to the sheriff's department, the district attorney's office, because of the work they do.
Yeah,
I mean, it would
many,
apply to their civil staff, I mean, administrative type people, but not to anybody who's actively engaged in law enforcement or prosecuting cases.
yeah, many of these jobs would be exempt, but I'd also just like to stress that there's already a state law on the books that prohibits discrimination based on criminal history and prescribes out the exact types of criminal factors that an employer can consider based on criminal history. And so this law would really just ensure that that law is actually followed. It's really just laying out a process so the existing state law is followed in a fair way.
So that Albany County will follow the state law, and Albany County will remove that question, which is not necessarily something that's prohibited on a job application, but that's one of the key things here, is to get rid of the question as to whether you have ever been convicted of a crime, and certainly to make sure that no one is asked whether they've been arrested or charged.
Yeah, it gives everyone the opportunity to get their foot in the door, get that, get that interview. A lot of the times, an employer sees that box. You have to check that box, and that's, automatically your application gets thrown out. I've heard many people won't even apply to jobs because they just feel that they're not even going to have a shot when they have to check that box.
Brian?
Just a few questions, and I think this is a very good idea in general, but I can see situations where you really might want to do this kind of background check, and somebody convicted of sexual assault should be disqualified from the Crime Victim Center. Somebody convicted of embezzlement should probably be accepted from working anywhere with county funds. Can you just kind of walk me through the process, how those records could be permissibly accessed, particularly because there's a lot of talk of good faith determination and inquiries. So if I'm reading this right, the employer has the ability to make a good faith determination that this would be necessitated, and then can go forward from there. And that's in addition to the Section 8 exceptions. And what would a good faith determination be?
So, so basically the applicant applies for the job, they have an interview, it goes well, they're offered a conditional offer of employment, then a background check could be made. And so if it was, for instance, at the Sexual Violence Crime Victim Center, and that person had was a sex offender, had that sort of criminal history, then the Sexual Victims Crime Center would then withdraw that offer of employment because, I think that's very reasonable that someone like that should not be working there. And that good faith determination, they would basically, it's all prescribed out in New York Correction Law, Article 23A, which I read some of it earlier, where basically if there's a direct relationship between one or more of the previous criminal offenses and the employment, then they could withdraw that offer of employment, or if they would, the employment would involve unreasonable risk of property or safety, or to the safety or welfare of specific individuals or the general public, they could withdraw that offer of employment. So in that situation, I'd say that that fits both of those situations. So, I think it's, this law creates a situation where, it gives the applicant a good chance to get a job if they have a criminal history and is fair to them, but also protects the county. So the county will be able to withdraw offers of employment in reasonable situations.
Makes sense. Just so I'm clear as to when that good faith clicks in. On one hand, I think you're saying it relates back to correctional law, state correctional law, Article 23A, but it seems to be a little more general. It seems to me what you're saying, the language is good faith determination, background check is warranted or required by law.
And what
And you
section?
kick in- I'm looking at section 6C.
Okay.
So I'm not clear whether the county as an employer is limited to the restrictions of Article 23A, or it's more of a good faith determination based on the employer's judgment.
So the employer can make that decision if they want to, conduct a background check. The county can make that determination based on, if it's a sensitive position, or they feel that a background check is warranted, they can conduct a background check. Then they can only withdraw that offer of employment based on Article 23A of New York State law.
Can you send around a copy of 23A so we know
Sure.
what the limitations are?
Yes, yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Any other,
I still don't understand, if this is done administratively, I mean, why do we have to go through this process? I mean, you've removed the checkbox already, so, I mean, I understand.
They could go back on tomorrow morning.
all right.
Yeah, this-
Reinstated.
They could reinstate it tomorrow.
All right, so
This sets it in stone, it could be reinstated at any time. And also, I think this law does a good job of, you gotta do more than just remove the box. You have to lay out the process for how, when, and background checks can be conducted, how an appeals process would work, what types of factors can be considered. So, I think it's important that we have this law on the books.
does Albany County perform background checks on all applicants that it's looking to hire?
I'm not sure about that.
Doesn't the
ahead.
county always reserve the right to do a
Yes,
background check on
pretty much,
employees?
yes.
I mean, we would never not do one.
Yeah, I believe the county has the right to, I'm not sure if it's background checks are conducted for every job or not, but this would not change that. There would still be background checks conducted. It would just happen at a different time in the process.
And I think that in certain cases, no matter what, if the background check showed something severe, obviously, the job would be denied. But if the background check showed something minor, disorderly conduct, marijuana possession, something of that nature, when somebody was 10 years ago, that might not be a basis for denying certain jobs based on, New York State law.
But that's already the case. I mean, even in police background checks, they've had people when they were younger at a DWI
Right.
or whatever, drugs, it didn't prevent them from, especially, it's already there. I mean, if somebody's discriminating, the state law protects, you can't discriminate based on that, right? I mean,
Yes.
you
But
can't, so.
the problem here, and this has been expressed to me by all the sponsors, the problem here isn't that the law says you can't discriminate, the fact is you can't prove it.
But I think it's still a very subjective thing. If I say, geez, forgery, okay? I think that's the reason why this person shouldn't be in that position as a county employer, because
They're
looking at the
handling
whole
documents.
of
right.
records with the deeds.
That's exactly that would be a basis for not giving the
But it's
person
still
a job.
subjective.
Pardon?
It's still subjective.
Yeah, well, it's,
I think the subjectiveness there is quite reasonable.
Right? Somebody else might
And
think so.
that's what this is about, reasonable denial of employment.
I think those things are loose.
And as you said, suppose somebody's looking to get in the Hall of Records and they have a DWI, is that relevant to them doing their job at the Hall of Records?
Well, it might be.
If
If it was a month ago and,
and actually, the time period is actually one of the factors to be considered concerning previous convictions. So if it was a month ago, maybe the county would consider that more highly than if it was 10 years ago.
I'm just, I guess, for a labor, I'm not really sure I see the need for a local law when there is a state law, and then also there are,
Chris, did you have another question?
I won't ask them.
Dave?
Does anybody know the method, how they investigate? And I'm thinking, say you had a 16-year-old who got youthful offender status, record sealed, say for a sex offense, and at 18 he applies to the county. How is that ever, dredged up or investigated? Do you know that?
it's sealed.
Probably shouldn't,
There's
if it was
certain-
sealed.
Sealed.
There's actually under law, there's certain reasons, like even for the military, that they can get those things unsealed and looked at in front of a judge on all these kinds of rules.
Yeah, so without the box, then you could have an 18 and 19-year-old working for youth and families here.
But they don't, but they legally, Chris, you're a lawyer, they wouldn't have to disclose that because they was sealed.
But if it's sealed, then they could probably get that job right now.
Yeah.
If there's no
Yeah, well, that's
record
what
of
I'm
it,
saying.
that's probably
They had
not
the
gonna
box,
change from the
but if they had a
current.
box where they had to say, yes, I was a,
No, they wouldn't.
No, they wouldn't.
No, they wouldn't have to
Yeah,
check it if
that's
it's a youthful
sealed.
offender, that's not a conviction of a crime.
Sealed doesn't just mean nobody can see it.
It means that they're not convicted of a
Brian,
crime.
did you have another
Doesn't
question?
doesn't prevent them from being around kids, though.
Yeah, just one quick question on the appeal process, and I do for the record, I think
Yeah.
this is an excellent idea, and I appreciate the council made the comment about marijuana convictions, because that's a particularly good example of
Yeah.
the kind of conviction which turns up a lot and has a real poor impact on communities, particularly African-American communities, and should not in terms of employment applications, but, so if an adverse action is taken by the employer, then the potential employee has the ability to come up with mitigating information, challenge the veracity of the report, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What's the standard that the employer then has in reviewing that? And further, if the employer sticks with that decision, what's the standard that Human Resources has in reviewing that decision? And then my third part of the same question is, would an aggrieved potential employee then have the ability to sue in court based on a potentially
Brian, it's,
inappropriate determination under this?
it'd be an administrative determination like any other administrative determination, and you'd have to challenge it on the basis that the administrative determination is irrational and
Like
not,
Article 78?
yeah, very
Okay.
difficult to overturn the administrative determination.
So the employer and Human Resources still have pretty much unfettered leeway in reviewing the appeals of these decisions?
Not
Yeah,
unfettered,
well-
but their decision would carry great weight, let's say, as any administrative decision would.
And I'll send out Article 23A to everyone, because that has a lot of detail about factors to be considered, such as the time that has elapsed, the age of the person at the time of the occurrence. So the Human Resources Department would be considering all of those factors in a judgment.
Bert, did you have a
Yeah, I
question?
just wanted to say, the practical significance of this is that the human rights law has disallowed discrimination on the basis of criminal record or conviction for a long time. But what this does is remove the real bias that when people see a record, they just automatically put it in the dump file. Right now, they have to give substantive reasons why somebody who otherwise is qualified should not be given the job. And I just, as recently as this morning in C-SPAN, there was an attorney who was wrongfully convicted for 10 years, who, subsequently with DNA evidence was released. And the whole problem is that the system is just woefully out of whack. And this is a major, major impact on communities of color. People probably know that we have the largest number of incarcerated people in the world now, with only 5% of the world's population. So this is probably one of the most important things that we'll ever do, and has a major effect on the local state economy.
Anything else?
Will civil service announcements indicate whether or not a background check will be done? So the applicant knows in advance whether or not they're going to have to undergo the background?
That would be on the job application,
They would be on the application?
yes.
Okay.
Ernest?
This is not for answering now, but it's a question. It was indicated that this law would require Albany County to follow New York State law, which creates this question as to maybe this law is being proposed that because Albany County has violated New York State law. And also, there was this comment made about, well, we shouldn't be discriminating now, the county, but people can't prove it, which again creates this inference that maybe there has been discrimination that has not been discussed here. I would appreciate a memorandum from the sponsors and/or majority office and/or the attorney's office, the county attorney's office, if in fact there's something more to this behind this legislation, because it certainly sounds like there might be something more to it that obviously would either need to be provided to me through an attorney letter or an executive session to the full committee here.
To the best of my knowledge, there's nothing more behind this other than a desire to put into law a practice that the sponsors feel is appropriate to deal with people who have been convicted of minor crimes, which is why there are so many exceptions for major crimes and certain jobs.
Well, just, again, that's been put on the record, because again, otherwise the record reflects that this is, one of the items in the record indicated that this is being put on so Albany County would follow the law, and I would think that Albany County does follow the law.
This law is not to accuse Albany County of not following existing state law, but as Mert said earlier, there's an inherent bias that people make when someone has to check that box about criminal history. And, I don't think anyone's violating the law, but this lays out a fair process so that, people will be considered, to ensure that people are considered based on their qualifications first, before their criminal history.
Anything else from the committee?
I'd like to know who we're doing these background checks on, because even if we're hiring a custodian to work in the DA's office, they'll be around sensitive material. Someone could inadvertently leave a document on their desk, which someone could read. So
The
it's,
evidence locker.
you never know, it could be unlocked.
Started that.
So I think it's important to know, who we're doing these background checks on. And even if they're just being hired for, a position as a custodian, they will be in the controller's office, the DA's office, county executive's office. And it's important that we have a background check on these people.
Yeah, the issue is not that we're gonna do less due diligence for any sensitive or even normal positions. The issue really is that there won't be an automatic, subjective bias to disallow people because of their criminal record and the difficulty of people proving that that's the case, absent this procedure. That's really the intent.
And we'll have to do more background checks on applicants.
Paul, did you
Not
have,
necessarily.
Paul, did you have a question?
I just wanted, the exemptions to the law, like for the sheriff's office, does that mean they will still have the box in their application, or where does the exemption kick in?
That means that they can automatically reject based on criminal conviction. It doesn't mean that the box won't be there, but they can automatically reject simply on that basis.
Then how would they know?
They do a background check. I would say, somebody just mentioned that we're gonna have to do more background checks. I don't think so. I think it's not unusual, and it certainly has happened in the past, that a person doesn't check the box anyway. So pretty much everybody has to be checked on a background check currently. It's nothing new.
Can we just find out, do we actually do some kind of background check or criminal history on everybody that, even if it's after when we go off for the job, whatever, okay? But is it the policy of Albany County to do a background check on every job applicant? And the reason I'm asking, quite frankly, I mean, we had experience out in the town with our police department where we had a cleaning service that was coming in that we contracted with. And, we didn't do anything on them, they were just a cleaning service for the rest. It was a nightmare. Needless to say, they're not there now, and we employ certain town positions to do that job because they are around sensitive, or could have access to certain documents, names, different things, So, I mean, I just like to know, as a matter of legislature, do we at least do a background check? I don't care if they're the janitor or they're, has exposure as a child protective worker that's going into homes, or a healthcare worker, or the mental health nurse that's going into mentally disabled home. I know you're saying that might be an exemption, but I'd like to know that we're doing them. Can we find that out?
We can get a definitive answer on that, yes.
Just whether it's everybody or.
All right.
Table this.
Thank you.
You want to table this, or if we were going to move this, we'd have to amend it anyway because the date has to be changed, just for the public hearing.
Well,
Probably has to sponsor.
do you want to go forward with the public hearing? We're certainly going to table the public.
We're going to table the
Local law.
the local law pending the public hearing.
Right.
Can we go forward, release the public hearing, and the date has to be changed to
September 27th.
September 27th. So can we get a motion to do that?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And then the local law itself, we're gonna table number 9. We're gonna table pending the public hearing. All right, and we got number 10, correct? Local law number O for 2016, Albany County Charter, the local law of the County of Albany, New York, repealing local law number 8 for 1993 as amended, entitled "A Local Law in Relation to the Adoption of a County Charter for the County of Albany and enacting in place thereof a revised Albany County Charter."
That's being tabled as well.
That's tabled? Okay. Gotta get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second, all in favor? Thanks.